Very good. Thank you, Toastmasters, fellow Toastmasters, and most distinguished guests. Last week I was flipping through the TV stations and I was looking for something interesting to watch. And I came across this show called Little People, Big World. And the premise of the show, it follows around this family of little persons. And they're raising their kids. One of them's a dwarf and the other one's a regular sized kid, and their daughter on this beautiful farm in Oregon. And what grabbed my attention about this particular episode was a scene where the father was sitting in the vet office with their beloved dog named Rocky. And they were there in a routine checkup. And the doctor came back into the room. And he didn't have routine news to give to them. In fact, he had some devastating news to give to the father. He told the father that Rocky had this extremely aggressive form of cancer, and that Rocky probably wouldn't be with the family for too much longer. At that point, the camera, because it's a reality show, it zoomed in on the father, and you see a tear coming down the father's eye as the camera caught this extremely personal moment on film. The father at that point was extremely upset. And I've seen a lot of reality TV shows in my life. But for the first time in a very, very, very long time, this reality TV show felt very real to me. And I was upset when the show just ended, just like that. What was going to happen to Rocky? Was Rocky going to make this miraculous recovery with this cancer? What was going to happen to the kids? Because the show just ended. Luckily for me, because I'm very impatient, the next episode happened to be on right after this. So I got a chance to sit through the next episode. And it starts off with the father sitting down at the dinner table with his entire family. And he's breaking this very tragic news to the kids and his wife. And he said, unfortunately, Rocky has this cancer and he may not be with us for too much longer. So over the next couple of weeks, you may want to spend some extra time with Rocky and show him some extra love and some extra affection. And for the next 15 minutes of the show, the cameras bring you into this real world scenario, this very intimate, personal relationship between the family and this dog named Rocky. At one point, the father is outside and he's sitting next to his ATV, this four-wheeler, and Rocky climbs into the four-wheeler, probably like he had done 100 times before, but this time Rocky didn't look so good. And the father and Rocky drive around this beautiful farm that they have, this huge farm. And it's a very personal relationship between the dog and the dog owner. And you sense that this could be Rocky's last time as he's traveling around this farm. Towards the end of the show, one of the sons walks in the door. He says, "Mom, Dad, Rocky's dead." And the cameras are still rolling. And at that point, I felt like I was part of this family. So everybody gets up, myself included. And we walk to the front porch. And they have a huge expansive deck that overlooks this farm, this amazing farm. And there's poor Rocky laying on the front lawn. But he looked so peaceful as he died there. I have this great affection for dogs. I've raised dogs my entire life. I've loved and lost two beautiful golden retrievers named Bogey and Barley. And when my wife and I moved to Florida, we decided that we weren't going to get a dog initially. We were going to hold off on getting a dog. But after about a year, year and a half, my heart ached again to become a dog owner. And it just so happened that our neighbor across the street had this beautiful, beautiful yellow lab named Sandy. And he happened to be breeding Sandy with this gorgeous chocolate lab named Finn. And they were going to give these puppies away for free, because he had a little daughter that was 8 years old and he wanted her to experience this dog actually having puppies. And he said, "Josh, not only are we going to give them away for free, but you could actually have the pick of the litter." And I was like, fantastic, this is awesome, this is great. So the dog goes into labor and he calls my wife and I up. So we rush across the street and we get to see Sandy giving birth to these little pups. And if you've never seen a lab pup when they first come out, they are tiny, very tiny. They look like little potatoes actually coming out. And the first little potato that comes out is a black potato, a little black pup. I was dying to get this chocolate lab. I'd always wanted a chocolate lab. And surely there would be a chocolate lab in this litter, right? Chocolate father, yellow mother, there's got to be some chocolate. But the next little potato was black. And then the third black pup came out. And then the fourth black pup came out. And at this point I start to think to myself, where is my little chocolate lab that's going to come out? And it turns out all 12 pups were black. But black labs, or any type of lab, is so irresistible when they're that young that of course my wife and I took one home. For one, they were free also. And we named this dog Bubba Jake. And we call him Jake for short. But we started out on a little bit of a rocky relationship. So we brought Jake home when he was just 6 weeks old. He was still very, very tiny. And after about a week, my wife was outside potty training this dog. And I'm inside and I hear my wife yelling, Josh, Josh, come out here. And I run outside and my wife is hysterical. And this dog is hysterically crying, uncontrollably. And I don't know what's wrong, except I see this red piece of skin hanging from his butt, from Bubba Jake's butt. And we have no idea what's wrong with him. So we get in the car and we rush to the emergency vet. And the vet tells us that poor little Bubba Jake, when he was going number 2, pushed so hard that he actually pushed his anus outside of his body. Believe it or not, I've never even heard of this before, but it can happen. So what they had to do was they had to put his little anus back in his butt, and they stitched his little butt up, because he's still like this big at this time. And they say, you have to watch him extremely closely, because it's a serious situation, and he may not grow out of it. So they stitch him up, they give us a bill for $500, and they send us on our way. A couple of days later, same situation. My wife's out potty training the dog. Poor little Bubba Jake pushing too hard. He breaks the stitch out of his butt, and here we go back to the emergency vet. Now at this time, I asked the doctor, the vet, I said, isn't there something that you can do, a more permanent solution? And he says, unfortunately, no. You just have to work with it. Luckily for us, we only had to take 2 more trips back to the emergency vet. So it cost us about $2,000 at this point. But I'm happy to say Bubba Jake is 8.5 years old. He grew out of this little problem he had with his butt. And out of all the investments that I've ever made in my